And we are live. Thank you for coming to this discussion about SE. I have a guest today, Reid Nicewonder of Cordial Curiosity. I had a really awesome time earlier this year for a couple of months getting to train with him live and in person before the current microbial situation became a problem. And I blame him for a lot of the training and impetus that made this channel possible. So, Reid, Cordial Curiosity, tell us about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Dolly, for having me. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm so glad to see you doing this. I guess a quick intro of me. I'm Reid Nicewonder. I have a YouTube channel called Cordial Curiosity. I've been doing public SE for about 4 years now, recording and uploading. And that's me. I'm also president of Street Epistemology International, although this is just me, Reid, speaking.
Cool. So you're not speaking from your corporate hat. You're speaking from your swoosh hat.
Yeah, just the swoosh hat.
Just the swoosh hat.
Hiding my COVID hair.
Oh my. Okay. I can respect that. All right. Let's see. We want to invite questions from the audience. You can type those in Collab SE text. And Kimberly will be giving us a question. We wrote a bunch of questions. If you saw yesterday's event with Anthony, it's actually the same list because we thought it was Ask the Experts. So there it is. Let's see. Brief technical difficulties. Be right back with that.
Technical difficulties?
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
It happens.
I'm not a one-man show, but I'm about as competent as one, maybe. So it's a slow thing. Okay, this is the Aaron Raw question. We rolled dice, by the way, to figure out the sequence of the questions, so that I'm not writing a story. When is SE called for and when is SE not called for, but a facts and debunking approach is called for?
I guess maybe after an SE session where you have kind of gone through the process of identifying, what would disconfirm your claim, what specific facts and evidence would do it. So then you can bring in just those and not waste your time throwing facts and evidence back and forth at yourself and other people.
Okay. So SE could lead into almost like sport debate. I hadn't considered that. Thank you. I didn't know. When I've been doing SE, it's been a lot in a public environment, on Discord, here on live streams, and it's been one after the other. There's been an interlocutor, and another one, and another one, and another one. We keep examining claims. We don't have any time after that, other than an openness to the audience. And I have been somewhat trying to suppress the facts and evidence coming from the audience, saying spirit of SE. But you bring up an interesting point that maybe I shouldn't. Maybe after an SE, a person should be ready for the actual something. I'll have to think about that. Thank you for that input. Is there any claim that you would refuse to examine?
Refuse? No. Not really, no.
Okay, so not some political hot button that's just too far over on one side of things. But if somebody said it, even if it was a Steelman thought, like I once hit you up with Bigfoot, that was fun.
I may refuse to upload it and publicly share it.
Okay.
But not talk with anybody.
I see. Yeah. I don't have that option because I'm doing it live, and I could take something down. That would be the extreme move. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does your experience in SE change your communication style outside of SE? If so, is this a uniformly good thing or bad or a mixed bag? Has it changed?
I guess I don't really talk too much outside of SE. It's just my general personality. I don't really, and especially during COVID, it's like I'm not really talking to many people. But yeah, even after doing SE for a while, I rarely use facts and evidence to try to persuade anybody or like send messages. That is something I've like sworn off. It's like it's just way too much evidence against doing that.
Yeah, I decided in 2020 myself to avoid sport debate, even if it was a good thing, because I wanted to stay on my focus of SE. And so a year, oh, that's fine. We'll figure it out then later.
Yeah, in the one-on-one context, not in like if I'm invited on modern day debate, I'm not going to just ask questions of somebody else. I might bring evidence or something, but I would probably avoid debates in general. Just preferred conversation.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hypothetically, what could you learn that would decrease your confidence that your practice of SE is good for society? And there's 2 follow-ups.
Yeah. For society, I would have to see, some type of study that showed it would decrease your confidence is good. Then if I saw studies showing that it increased polarization or other things like that, what else? What's like society metrics? I don't think it has anything to do with GDP or what other society metrics, like happiness, like how do you measure this? Society metrics.
I really love the polarization answer. That really resonates with me.
Yeah, all those Pew polls about seeing the opposite side, politically. If we saw those types of things, look better in terms of seeing the other side more empathetically, being willing to marry someone from the opposite side. Those types of questions. If those improved, and we know they improved because people, either practice SE or like encountered someone or a lot of people doing SE on them. I don't know how you would make that causal connection. That's probably up to sociologists, but something like that.
Okay. How about for your interlocutor? And you may have said that with the way your answer for society that sort of overlapped. Good for your interlocutor.
Yeah, like studies about personal positive life outcomes. If those got better somehow through doing SE, not being depressed as much, because you understand where people are coming from, their intentions, and they have good intentions. They're not evil people, and you're not in a world where it's like evil versus good. Being able to learn more about other people, and if we had some way to measure the ability to people to think critically, if we could measure that, and if SE increased people's ability to do that, that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. So the last part is what could you learn that would reduce your confidence that it's good for you personally?
Decrease my confidence it was good for me personally. If I just started being more sure about whatever I believed and being less empathetic about people and just more depressed about talking with people and making the world a better place through conversation.
Okay.
It just seemed to like every time I talk with someone,
you started evidencing a bunch of personal costs. I see it.
Yeah. I just start losing my faith in humanity with every conversation, then that would be bad.
Have you experienced an interlocutor having a perverse response to an Lincus, like dramatically increasing their confidence in an obviously daft or unmotivated claim?
I've seen like wild fluctuations in confidence, but not like, a weird, daft, that's funny, unmotivated claim. I haven't seen that, no. I've only seen like one person, I think, talk about either it was astrology or like karma or something, started at like 100 and then went to 0, which
Wow.
made me question their
Yeah.
commitment to it. But I've seen that happen. That happened once, and I'm like, wow, it was interesting.
Wow, that's intense. Okay. Can SE be used effectively with an agenda to convince people towards a position?
I guess, yeah. I mean, the book is a manual for creating atheists. Was the original book.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the position you want to convert people to or create people for is atheism, then a manual for creating atheists would seem to be a good way to do that. So, but that title is so misleading because it's like you want to help someone think critically about position X, and if they realize for themselves they don't have any good reasons for position X, then they go back to just the default position. And atheism is like a very peculiar type of word because we don't really have words for like the default position for every claim. It's usually just, oh, I don't believe that. We don't need a word for everything we don't believe.
Right.
So it's like in the specific realm of beliefs about God, we have this philosophical term, atheism, that is not really necessary. So if you qualify that as a position, sure, but really it's not. But that's just like the default, Bayesian prior position. I guess you could, if you increase doubt in something and you go back to the default, I guess that's a way to go towards a position. That's how I would think about it.
Okay. We have a question from the audience. Do you have any issues staying calm during the discussions, now or ever?
It wasn't beginning. I wasn't calm because I was just nervous, and it was just weird being out there on the trail with a table and cameras, and I didn't know what people would think of me or react. And at that point, it was weird, and I was talking with someone, and that was just something strange for me. And I was just very socially anxious in general. So in terms of being calm then, I was not calm. But now I'm totally calm because it's no big deal for me to talk with anybody or go out and, with cameras and stuff. I've seen what people react like, it's like no big deal. And talking to people about specific claims in themselves, it doesn't know. I was still super calm. So now it's totally fine.
Yes. Thank you. If you heard R2 announcing that Tigger is out in the pilot, that's all just the talk going on in the birds. So you can ignore that. It's just a feature of the show.
Okay.
Have you ever been emotionally moved enough in an Lincus that you needed to take a break before you were ready to do another interview?
Not in really in a Lincus. There was this one person. I have a video of him on my channel. It was like one of the first 20 or 30 maybe of him talking about just his life dealing with cancer and like being really appreciative of like life. Like by the end of that, I was kind of in tears, but that had nothing to do with like an Lincus. I was just kind of listening to his story. And so that doesn't really apply to this question. So no, not really. No.
Interesting. Okay. By the way, from the audience, please type in your questions. As long as the production team can make sense of them and they're happy with them, they will put them up in the stream. All right. Sometimes it's the delay of the cut and the paste. I want to see what the next question is.
No worries. How many chickens do you have in there?
I have 3. I have 2 hens and a rooster here. The rooster is R2 and the hens are I and Sigma. And those are math terms.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite category of claim? Are there claims or are there claims you dread to confront?
Nowadays, my favorite type of claim is like the cultural claim of like relating to social justice, critical social justice.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite ones now. It's like that postmodern element leaking
Mm-hmm.
into the usual liberal forms of talking about social justice. It's like it's been
Mm-hmm.
just corrupted in that way. And I see that as a larger and larger issue nowadays. So that's my favorite category now. It used to be spiritual, religious, or supernatural claims. Any claims I fear or dread to confront.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like white supremacists, like explicit, neo-Nazis. Those are just, the people themselves would be, I talked with one person at Politicon, like the first Politicon in Los Angeles I went to, like outside on a table for like an hour and a half. And that was very strange. And he was like legit a white supremacist. So, but looking back, watching that footage, I was still calm and cordial with that person, and I didn't really have issues. I don't think I was afraid because it was a pretty public area anyway.
Yeah.
But any claims, maybe like race and IQ as well. Oh boy. Race and IQ would be another claim that would be, I would dread to confront that because it's such a hot topic. Might be something I might not upload.
Yes, sorry, there was a local drama, and it's fine now. But he's going to be a little noisy about it. There was an overlap of territories between the rooster and the cat.
Oh dear.
Yes, it'll be fine. He's just going to be slightly noisy. Okay, next question. How often do you modify your own confidence in a claim during or after an Lincus?
I rarely do it explicitly, like put my own confidence on there. So I rarely, come up with a specific spot. When I do have a specific spot, if it's like a political or a cultural claim, sometimes I do shift a little bit. Nothing like major to the opposite side, but, a little bit up or down. So it's pretty rare. Yeah, I have not had a greater than 50% confidence shift. As far as I know, maybe, no, I don't think I have it.
Okay, cool. That's mostly my experience. I think I have maybe had one or two experiences where I've had a strong confidence shift where I may have gone from 40 to 90 or something. Mostly because I didn't know it. Didn't know about it at all. And when I say relating to an Lincus, that involves me going back and doing the research after. I don't want to just take somebody's words as something that should shift me that far. If I do, I'm probably believing things too much, too easy.
Yeah.
There's a question. In discussions, I feel I have 20, 30 questions I could ask. How do you choose? The production team is choosing on the fly.
Okay. In discussions, I feel I have 20, 30 questions I could ask. How do you choose? Well, there's like the general template of like making sure you understand the claim from the person, explicitly, and defining the words. So once you have that and you go into the Lincus where you're trying to, inquire about the claim and their reasons and their reliability of their reasons. So you want to get to a point where they know what their reasons are and what a reason, if they no longer had it, would change their confidence. And then being able to know what could change their mind. And then if they revise their claim any, just kind of starting over. So you just kind of, it's like a sixth sense at some point where you don't want to ask something that makes them defensive. So you're like weighing just how they're feeling. Like, will this question push them too far? Are they willing to go this far? Are they open to contemplating this hypothetical? Do they even understand what's going on? Do I need to step back and ask even simpler questions, or like a more broader question? Yeah, it's hard to know. And
Sounds like you're saying that the pairing comes down to practice. That I think I think a sixth sense is experience in this case. Is what you mean?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can go through the exact template, but then you start to get a feel for it, and you kind of understand the general character of the person, where they're coming from like a woo person, or are they super spiritual, super hardline religious, that is like logical with their evidence, or are they relativistic, progressive or conservative.
Mm-hmm.
What are their values? What moral community are they coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the sacred values of that moral community? And what are the taboos or like blasphemies of that moral community?
Right.
So you got to keep that in mind.
I'm going to throw in I'm calling a question here. What could you give me a list of ignore the one that's just popped up. I'm going to ask your first one.
Okay.
Can you give me a list of like the moral communities and what those values would be? It doesn't have to be a complete list, but a few examples.
There's a great white paper called The Mimetic Tribes in the Culture War 2.0 by Connor Barnes and someone else. I forgot his name. I always forget it. Anyway, they have like a spreadsheet of like the various mimetic tribes in this culture war, and one is like, you have like the rationalists, post-rationalists, the sorters, which are like the IDW, Jordan Peterson people, or the progressive activists and trans rights activists and gender critical feminists, and like the more left, and then like QAnon or TradCon or various other conservative tribes, like incels, and they have like a telos, which is like a a purpose for them, and then like their sacred values and their purpose, and their main people they look up to, and their main ways of understanding the world, and their forebears, like what's their history. So that there's a great spreadsheet of all of those on that white paper. Just look up mimetic tribes in the culture war 2.0.
Okay. If somebody from Collab SE Text would grab that link and throw it in the text, it'd be lovely, and maybe I could include it in the doobly-doo if it's the one that makes sense. Have you observed anyone trying to do SE where they crashed and burns, failing badly enough that they couldn't finish the interview?
Have I observed anyone were they like the person doing the interview?
Yeah, like the examiner crashed and burned so bad that they ruined the Lincus and couldn't finish it.
Where like they had to step away, or the person
maybe they had to step away, or they ruined it. They ruined the rapport, and the other person broke off. That you could definitely see was a failure on the questioner's part.
I've seen a lot of failures, crashing and burning on like Blab back in the day. People, it would mainly just dissolve into arguments and fighting and yelling at each other. In person, no, I haven't seen that. Nothing, especially with SE having to go away. No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Imagine, for that link on the prior topic. Without pushing into people's privacy, Can you tell me how your intimates see your hobby of SE? How does this affect your family and intimate relationships? Does it?
We don't really talk about it. I think only I've explicitly shown, my channel to my mom, maybe a couple years ago when it was mainly religious videos, and she's religious herself. Like every single meal, like dinner, she had like prays, does the grace prayer for,
Sure.
for meals,
Yep.
like we're super religious. So we don't really talk about it that much.
Okay.
And, religion in general. And the rest of my family hasn't found it yet.
Oh my. Wow. Okay. The next question is, has an interlocutor ever changed your views on something?
It's similar to that confidence question.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have. I don't know any specifics though. I guess like one explicit thing was like I was talking with someone about like prostitution or sex work, and like I was maybe 85, and by the end of the conversation I was like 90, that should be a thing. So like that's as much as I've gone, I think.
Wow. Okay, cool. Next question. I think I have my production team multitasking. I'm stepping on them. Okay. Of people famous enough that we probably both know of them, and you do not personally know, who would you like most to see practicing street epistemology?
Listen to a lot of podcasts of like people interviewing people. I think Sam Harris would be my number one for sure.
Okay.
If he did more SE type interviewing, especially it's someone who he disagrees with. Like if he did SE with Ezra Klein, that would have been great. Or SE with some other people who despise Sam Harris, and he just tried to learn their perspective, make sure he understood where people were coming from, and could find some way to disconfirm, hypothetically disconfirm something from someone who hates Sam Harris about some particular view. That would be awesome. Would love to see that.
Oh, thank you. Cool. Next question. What famous person or stereotype would you least like to see practicing SE?
I don't understand that question. Like,
is there somebody who would do it badly and hurt the practice of SE in general by practicing it? I mean, I was thinking Steven Crowder, because he seems to be close enough to SE without doing it that I have a little bit of a Crowder bump to get over. Are you doing things like this? No. Let me demonstrate why.
Yeah, I figured the question meant they were doing SE well enough to make it, actual SE, not saying they're doing SE and failing at it and then, tarnishing the brand of SE. If that's the meaning of the question.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Then sure, Steven Crowder. If Steven Crowder just started saying my new series, Street Epistemology, and he did the change my view version of it, where he's like, I have a position, you give me facts, and I'll just hunker down in my belief and then give you more facts back. And he called that Street Epistemology. That would be terrible.
That would be terrible. Okay, good. I completely agree. Could SE be co-opted by bad actors? This is almost the same question. For nefarious purposes, what would someone have to change about SE to make it nefarious?
Sure, they could. Like Christian evangelists, Christian street preachers could use SE to get people to doubt, their non-belief in a God or something, or belief in like Islam or belief in Mormonism. And then when they're in that, position of doubt vulnerable, then they go into like preaching and giving the gospel. Like if I put someone in that vulnerable position where they start to doubt something they really believe, I don't want to like, okay, now you need to hear about science. Now you need to hear about naturalism and skepticism and critical thinking. Explicitly listen to what I have to say about these, believe what I believe. That would be nefarious. I would be an asshole for putting someone in that situation. Like they need to go on their own and then just rethink their own belief and try to find either good reasons to bolster their belief or realize they have no longer good reasons on their own. So that would be the way.
Your description is exactly the Columbo tactic. That's the outline of the Columbo tactic by I think a guy named Greg.
Greg
Kokel. Yeah, and that is use SE up until the point where you just start preaching.
Does Kokel say to preach afterwards, or not?
I think that's what I understood in the presentation, but I haven't read his book. I watched some videos where he presented the idea, and I have my own outline built from that. So I'm just working off the memory of his videos from Kokel.
Okay, I assume that would be the point of getting someone to doubt, then just to answer the gospel.
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. Okay. If we do, FK just did it. Thank you. If we do SE with someone about their religious belief, do we have a responsibility to offer them help with their changing belief? I'm going to call this the Anthony McNabosco question.
Okay. I don't know if they're like I don't know if we help someone about their religious belief, do we have a responsibility to offer to help them with their changing belief? Responsibility? No.
Okay.
Not really. Maybe I defer with Anthony on this. Like, it's not my responsibility to educate you on a different belief or your own belief. I can continue the conversation and we can explore your belief further. And if you get like suicidally depressed or something, then maybe I have then I would have responsibility to make sure you get help if that happened.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like, no, it's up to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Next question. Why don't we use SE with minors? Why don't we do SE with minors?
It's just creepy. If you're like by yourself with a random minor, then it's creepy. Especially talking about some deeply held belief like a god or something. Like that's a personal family belief. And like if a kid talked with me, went back to their parents and said, "Mommy, I don't believe in God anymore," that's kind of a bad situation. And like that's a dangerous situation for yourself, probably. But if people want to let their kid talk about whatever with you and they give permission and they don't mind you talking about a god, like I think Tia was a minor. I assume she was. I assume she was, but her mom was right there, encouraging her to talk about it. So as long as the parent is there and there's permission and consent, I don't mind to talk with the minor.
That's been no minors unless your parents are involved, and that's fine. Yeah, indeed. Mommy evolution is true. I could see that. Mommy. Have you experienced an interlocutor that was dishonest about their position in a context where steel manning is not specifically welcomed? And let me clarify steel manning. There's steel manning in the short term is repeating back somebody's argument as well as they said it. Steel manning in the long term is like in debate practice where you argue from a position that you don't actually hold. And that's what I mean.
Just an aside, don't conflate steel manning with just repeating back or representing their position accurately. Like steel manning should be adding something or changing something, some position in some fundamental way that that increases its robustness.
Because it's on the opposite of straw man. It's a changed and better. Okay.
Like if you use steel manning that way, you could say straw manning and it would mean the same thing.
Right.
If you're not, if you're just, I don't mean.
So I should call that mirroring. What are the terms I should use for that short-term repeat back their argument?
Just mirroring is fine, or summarizing back, confirming that you understood.
Okay.
Just maybe clarifying.
Okay, so mirroring, clarifying. Good. Okay, so back to the question, because now I went off into a context thing. Where is it? Have you experienced an interlocutor that was dishonest when steel manning wasn't an open option?
I think so. I think I have. I don't know for sure. I've had a few flat earthers. One I know for sure, actually. He just came from like a group of friends who were just off to the side watching. So I'm very confident he was just fucking with me.
Okay.
And then another person just randomly in Griffith Park also talking about flat Earth, and he was like 50% flat Earth, which is strange. I think he was just playing.
Yeah, that's weird. That's just weird.
So
okay.
I'm sure there are more, but yeah, those two come to mind.
Indeed. If you reach a point where your interlocutor says that they would change their confidence given X evidence, and you have this evidence, should you produce it? Should you present it? I think you answered this question a little bit, but let's revisit.
Where they would change their confidence given X evidence, and you have this evidence. Maybe if they ask you for it.
Okay.
If they ask you for it, sure.
Okay, so on their prompting, it's okay. You can let that messenger through. That's nice.
Yeah, if they say something like, "Oh yeah, like if I knew this, then I would change my mind. Do you know if that's the case?" Then I could say, I would probably say, "I think it's the case," or "I heard it from here." I heard this from here. I still could be mistaken, though. I've heard this. How could we tell if that source was reliable and that is actually the case? I would still try to make sure we qualify and assess the reliability of my own source and my own fact and evidence.
Okay. Yes, I'm ready. How often, when doing SE in public, do you have a reasonable fear? And then there are follow-ups.
I wasn't like Griffith Park alone, and I usually there, like my first spot, I would get maybe one person an hour or two people. And, there's a homeless issue in Los Angeles. So sometimes I would get the occasional homeless person, and that was maybe a reasonable fear. But besides those contexts, no, not really.
Okay. How about unreasonable fear? Have you had unreasonable fear in an SE context?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And have you had stage fright?
When I was on a literal stage talking about SE at Sunday Assembly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, next question. Are there any aspects of formal SE that you've personally integrated into your personal conversations?
Building rapport helps. Any aspects of formal SE? I mean, wouldn't I just be doing SE if I was doing some type of formal SE aspect? I mean, I guess.
I guess it's a question of would you find yourself asking an SE type question without going into SE or setting up the consent or setting up the understanding of the Lincus and those kind of things?
Yeah, maybe I like go straight to asking a disconfirmation question, or how could we know if this is mistaken? I just go straight to that question if I have, if I am short on time or something. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Have you had at least 10 Lincus in both public and online? Meaning, I know you've had way more than 10 Lincus in public. Have you had at least 10 Lincus online?
I think I have in Blab's days.
Okay.
I think I maybe talked to a few people there. Online, I just talked with. Were you there when I talked to this alien guy? It was some Twitch streamer with like 250,000 followers, talking about aliens.
No, I don't think I know that.
That was maybe a month ago. I might upload that now that aliens is kind of in the news.
Okay.
I want to do more though. Now, especially now that we're doing, in the COVID situation, I want to figure out a way to do it. And I also want to do VR SE.
Okay.
That would be cool. Like I have the Oculus Quest, which is like VR headset where it's just by the controllers and the headset by itself, no other accessories or computers or whatever. And they have, online multiplayer type games where I can go and do this event. People like what's it called? Like something VR space or something, where people have like virtual living rooms or virtual movie theaters or just campfires, and you can watch videos or you can talk with people. And that would be cool to try to.
That would be very cool.
Do SE.
What's the buy-in on something like that? Is that less than $1,000 to get to that, or how much?
I think around 500 to 600 for the headset. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm assuming that you would need to connect it to a desktop or laptop computer to.
Not the Quest, no.
No, the Quest just talks to the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi only. Yeah, it's got cameras and sensors in the controllers in the headset, and you just designate a specific area on the floor, like you draw it with the controller, virtually, and it's like stay in this space and you're good. It's really cool.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm terribly interested to see that. I'm not sure how it relates to SE, but I'm sure that something about body language and something matters, and I would love to see that. I want to
see people gesticulating with their arms because their controllers are tracked, and you can see people like give hand signals, like even as well. So it's cool.
Sure, I would be very interested to see it. Okay. So the last part of the prior question, and I'm just going to call that for just a moment. I'm going to ignore the question for a moment, and say, how have you noticed these environments are different between the online and in person? I've experienced both with you and online a bit, so I have my own ideas, and I see them as a lot different. How have you experienced them as different?
Yeah, like my online experience is mostly Discord and Blab, which is kind of a similar context where you're talking to someone, but there's an audience there also listening.
Yes.
That you explicitly know is there. And sometimes they butt in and like interrupt you. So that's another risk and hazard. So
I have an amazing tech team. They take care of that one.
Yeah. So it's so much better, being face to face by yourself. I don't know if it matters too much, like with them knowing they're being recorded and there's a Twitch live stream also, watching. I don't think that matters too much when it's face to face in person. I think they kind of just focus on me and forget about it. Maybe some people are more self-conscious, but being online, exactly how many people are listening and maybe even what they're saying about the conversation, because there's also a text chat. So there's just so many more biases and influences going on. So like, it's not ideal being online, but it's like, it's better than Twitter for sure, better than Facebook.
Oh, yeah. I think a sharp stick in the eye might be better than Twitter, but okay. That's my bias coming out. Is it acceptable to use SE when listening to friends and family about their problems and using it as a method to troubleshoot the root of their problem rather than their initial stated root cause?
Maybe.
Meaning, if they have misattribution error, is this a good thing to use with friends and family?
If it's like not a super serious, like emotional problem that needs like serious therapy, then maybe, most likely, sure, yeah, we can. It's kind of like SE is kind of like a cognitive behavioral therapy for like claims.
Yeah.
Your cognitive behavioral therapy is a way of asking, does this justification make sense for whatever feeling I have? So maybe.
Oh, okay, that was an update of the same. They just fixed the typo. Thank you for that. Next question. If a group of minors wanted to learn SE, is there any reason they shouldn't try to learn and practice it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Any reason? Good. What would be? Let me think.
Yeah, maybe even if it's a really weak reason, what would be the reason that would most affect your confidence?
Maybe they just start annoying their teachers by like making them dig down and justify their like science questions, like, and they're not, or just like some, like we have we're talking about some subject X in a science class, and then it gets down to like, model, what is that? Model something realism. Like you get down to the philosophical bedrock of like the philosophy of science after a bunch of questions. So like something like that. That'd be funny.
Yeah, that would be funny. Okay, next one. Are you aware of some of the criticisms of SE? Some see it as dishonest and maybe even manipulative. And if so, do you think there's some merit to some of that?
Yeah, especially at the beginning. Like I have like this Chialo argument map of like criticisms of SE that I've been keeping track of, and some criticisms I've taken to heart and changed how I do SE because of their criticisms. Like making sure I get consent, and especially for religious claims, and making sure it's obvious my goal in the conversation, and if they want to know where I'm coming from, I will tell them. Definitely be willing to say whatever you believe whenever you're asked. Stuff like that.
I would really appreciate if you'd link and share that with me. In my personal life, I attempt to get 10, ideally 20% of my input and exposure to things from people I know I disagree with. So for my channel, I want to mirror that and have at least 10, ideally 20% of my content be engaging with the critics of SE. So I have a slot for shows about criticisms of SE and guests who would like to criticize SE, and the thing you're talking about would allow me to do a show without even a guest who might want to be confrontational. I appreciate that.
And sometimes I search for Street Epistemology on Twitter, and I find like a podcast by apologists, and I usually I try to listen to everyone that I hear, like just a general interest in general, but also hearing the criticisms of what they say.
So I ask you and everybody else listening, if you see any good criticisms of SE, the ones you would take the most seriously, please link them to me. I want to cover those. I want to cover the best ones, not the low-hanging fruit that's easy to defeat. We can do some of that, but and so I really invite that kind of thing. Next question, please. What actions could the examiner take that would disqualify a conversation from being SE by your personal standard?
Yeah, here's one of the questions I tried to give notes on. I guess it's really just sending messages, trying to give facts and evidence. That's an obvious disqualifier, especially if the person didn't ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of others. Just being angry.
Yeah.
Yelling
Negative
at them,
report. Yeah.
insulting them, the general stuff like that.
Okay. The production king would. I'm not going to ask that. You go ahead and read it if you like, and you may answer it. My production team is a good one.
Sure. Yes, you are.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Next question. Oh, wait. If not who? No, but he said yes, so there's no follow up. All right. Next question, please. If it hasn't been asked already, why did Reid start doing SE? How did you come across it?
2013 is when the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, I was in Los Angeles on my own, in a new place, and recent, deconverted from religion. Mm-hmm. Even the apathetic version I had, that I was kind of just hanging on because of an afterlife. But I got to LA, and then I found the Center for Inquiry, which was cool. They did a bunch of talks like every week. And then this other organization also was there, Atheists United. Mm-hmm. And I I joined them and hung out with them. And then I was getting into the more just secular activist scene, spreading the ideas of, at that time, I would have said atheism, but it's really it's really secularism, critical thinking, science, education. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to help the cause. It was back in 2012 to 2013. Then Peter Boghossian had his book come out. He did a talk in LA. I attended the talk. It was great. Loved the idea. But it wasn't until a year afterwards, and I didn't see any really examples of this conversational method happening online. Mm-hmm. Nothing on Facebook or Twitter at that point. So it wasn't until, Anthony's videos started showing up, and those are obvious examples, even though they weren't the best at the very beginning, especially when it was just like I saw him yell at a street preacher. Like I remember that first video, one of the first ones.
Yeah.
Or at least it was still on his channel, like obviously there. Like I went back and watched all of his videos when I first found the few that he had. So then that's how I came across really Street Epistemology. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of followed it for another year until 2015 mid 2015, Blab started. And then at that point, I was in the Facebook group learning about SE. And then we just practiced on Blab for a year until it shut down. And at that point, Anthony had tons of videos. There were many people uploading videos. Mm-hmm. So that's how I kind of started it.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. And okay, what do you do when your interlocutor says no to the TicTac test? Whether it's not necessarily odd or even, or I can't say that somebody's wrong if there's two people, one says even, one says odd.
Yeah, my recent conversation with James Lindsay about critical social justice, we were watching Anthony's video
of Vanessa.
And she got to that question, and that's like a wildly, that's a unique way of answering that question of like bringing up just other ways of knowing, indigenous ways of knowing. That counts as a not answering that question. And James suggested not even using the words even and odd and saying, could we take these objects out of this box and line them up next to each other, do it with every single piece until we get to a point where either they have a pair or there's one left over. Yeah. Could we do that? Could anybody do that with any similar objects or these TicTacs? Would there be one left over or would there not be one left over? Ask that question. Don't even say even or not and see what they say. And then, because that's what we're really asking. I'd love to see someone do that, and I'd love to see what happens there, because then that's just, I don't know how more obvious and plain and simple it gets. So would love to see what happens after that.
Okay. Next question. Which book would you suggest as the first for people interested in SE? A Manual for Creating Atheists, or How to Have Impossible Conversations, or something else?
Book, obviously, How to Have Impossible Conversations, for sure. That should be the first one. You really don't even have to worry about A Manual for Creating Atheists anymore. How to Have Impossible Conversations is all you need. It's like everything is there, like especially the core Socratic part of it, and the disconfirmation questions, and there's just so much more as well, and it's just generalizable as well. So it doesn't have the stigma of having the Manual for Creating Atheists is very polarizing. So that's the book for sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a moment here and mention we're starting book club on Wednesdays on this live stream on Impossible Conversations. This is a book club that will be presented by people who have read and will be summarizing and quoting from the book. And it's also leaned toward people who don't bother want to read the book. This won't be an audio book level. It'll be a summary, cliff notes, and quotes level, and what people have learned from it and their reflections. So it's not a replacement, but almost. If you don't like reading the book, come to our book club. Stream them later, however you do that, and we will try to fair use, be kind to the book. Next question.
Which book are you going to read?
Impossible Conversations.
Okay, cool.
I'm just calling it by that short name, and it's How to Have Impossible Conversations. Yes, but I just call it Impossible, or the Orange Book. Okay, is a taco a sandwich? I heard. Is a taco a sandwich?
What do you mean by taco, and what do you mean by sandwich? And at some point, categories they have blurry edges, so I don't know. Sure.
I like that response. I like that a lot. Okay. Next from the list. That was not a dash, so I don't see it at the top. Try it again. The question is, what biases do you intentionally hold, if any, while asking questions in the Lincus? And maybe what biases do you unintentionally hold?
Yeah. Intentionally hold. I kind of try to think of what a dogmatic ideologue is and just do the opposite. Be the opposite of a dogmatic ideologue and try to embody myself as that. So if that counts as a bias, trying to act that way intentionally, that's what I try to do.
Okay. So the bias is against dogmatism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which includes being open to whatever they're saying, kind of assuming that you're wrong from the begin with, and they know whatever is true, and I'm just listening and trying to learn whatever their reasoning is, and it's just starting from that position. Unless they ask for what my position is, and then I kind of change out of that. So then also biasing towards, once we get into the Lincus and their reasoning and connecting their reasoning to the claim, then I have a bias towards, valid and soundness of the argument. Are they even using the same words? Is any of the words they're using in this reason connected to the claim? Like I need to hear at least one word in the reason connected to the claim, so we have like a, syllogism type thing going. And then if they give a reason that's not even valid, then I can ask questions about the validity of that structure. But if it's valid, then we can go into the soundness of the structure of the argument. So that's kind of a bias there. Like I assume that's how we make arguments.
Okay. And then this is a bias toward logical, syllogistic level kind of thinking.
Yeah, that's what's my
bias toward non-dogmatism.
That's why sometimes I use my Post-it notes. Like the claim is there, and then a reason. I put the reason below the claim because that's something that supports the reason. And ideally there's like two connecting syllogistic claims.
Okay.
So, sometimes it's implied and we don't have to like spell it out exactly, but
yeah,
there's at least two. So that's a Post-it note. So that's just, we can see it visually, and that's how we make the argument. So that's something I bias towards, and in general, just biasing towards objective truth. Is that a bias? Like I assume that's a thing.
Yeah, preferring objective truth over fluffy, not objective truth. Yeah, that's certainly a bias. Do you think you have any biases that you unintentionally hold, that you're stuck with? You can't really, we're just going to skip forward. To do SE, does one have to be an atheist?
No.
So if you were a theist and you were doing SE, would that limit you in what kind of claims you could examine? Would you be unable to come at SE from a theist place? And would that generate limits?
I've yet to see it successfully done, like to the level of, Anthony or just the other people that post videos of a theist doing it neutrally with a God claim. I've yet to see it done to my satisfaction. I think a theist could do it about a non-God claim very easily, but I haven't seen it done yet. So I think there's nothing stopping them.
If I find any theists that are doing SE well, I'm going to try to invite them on the live stream as a guest interrogator.
Awesome.
So yes. Now there was a comment. I think you really need to get a theist on here. That's scheduled for Thursday. I have a Mormon missionary that wants to explain the claim that the Book of Mormon is both a valid historical record and is the Word of God. So thank you for that. Okay, next question. And what we're just over an hour. Do you have an out?
Free.
Are you feeling okay? This is still going well? I don't want to push you to the end. All right. I haven't seen it yet. Have you ever read any reviews or criticisms of How to Have Impossible Conversations? And if so, have they impacted your approach?
There was one specific article on, I think, Arc Digital. I forgot exactly what the criticisms were, but I think it was definitely a criticism and negative, but they just misunderstood. I think they were just seeing Jim and Peter from their grievance studies affair and just being biased towards them in that way. And then, I think they're trying to appeal to some type of hypocrisy because of the way I think at least Jim does his conducts on Twitter, but like Jim has, his justifications for why he does.
I've heard so many people say that he conducts himself interestingly on Twitter, and I haven't seen it. I should go look.
I mean, he does the opposite of Impossible Conversations on Twitter because Twitter is just structurally not set up for any type of honest conversation. It's just the worst possible thing.
Yeah, there's no possible one-on-one, and you can't say a long thing. It's bad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's see. What lesson in doing SE was the hardest for you to learn?
Shooting the messenger, not giving evidence or facts, to try to, if they just knew this thing, I could tell them to them and they would change their mind. It's so natural to want to do that people, it's just hard to get over. It's like, yeah, that's the hardest thing.
What lesson do you think is commonly the hardest for people learning this method? Is it the same thing? Do you think shooting the messenger, or do you think there might be another one that competes for being the difficult part?
Depending on your personality, just staying emotionally neutral, or just maybe not like deadpan as me, but just not being angry or defensive when talking with someone. I guess that's a big thing for most people. And also shooting the messenger.
Yeah, shooting the messenger. What results of an Lincus are, well, I'm not sure how to say it, the most rewarding, the best grade, the highest satisfaction, however you see it. What are those rewards of an Lincus that you're looking for, and how often do you achieve that high mark?
Seeing people go into like system 2 thinking for at least 3 seconds or more. It's the spider on the ceiling face. It's like something like that. That's cool. And then also them like explicitly thanking me for helping them rethink whatever their reasoning was for whatever claim, and just being super happy and appreciative of having gone through the process, like seeing it as like some type of fun exercise, and just being very positive about it by the end.
And what fraction of your Lincus do you think achieve that high mark?
The system 2 thinking, maybe a third of the time, like explicitly for that amount of time, at least 3 seconds. Yeah, and then them explicitly thanking me, maybe 5% of the time.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question: what's in a Lincus?
What is an Lincus? It's the Q&A portion of the Socratic method. Begin and wonder, find a hypothesis, and then try to go through the Lincus to test the hypothesis. And then you can either revise the hypothesis after the Lincus and do another Lincus, or once you get to the end point where you can't justify it anymore, or your reasons there, then you can just act accordingly. But it's the Q&A portion of the Socratic method.
Okay, thank you. What topic do you feel holds the most cognitive dissonance for yourself in SE and maybe out? So 2 ways.
Topic you feel holds the most cognitive dissonance for yourself. I can't really think of anything that I just feel cognitive dissonance talking about. I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
So, if you just don't have examples of cognitive dissonance that you're up against in yourself, then I'd almost have to reframe the question of what do you think people would have the most cognitive dissonance about that they talk to you about. But that's a completely different question. So, list question: what is the worst result you have experienced in an Lincus?
Trying trying to think of times where someone just got really angry or just like the Politicon conversations are new, and they're just kind of boring, and I'm mainly not even getting to the Lincus, and it's just clarifying their claims and getting their reasoning, and I have no way of, like, at that point, testing their stuff. But that's not really in the Lincus.
Well, okay, but so maybe in the attempt at an Lincus, basically you weren't able to get there. You weren't able to set up the starting conditions.
Yeah,
that's a bad result. Sure, that's not like scary though. I mean, it seems like, that didn't work, but they're not angry or threatening to sue me.
There's a playlist on my channel where I went out and did some live streams on YouTube, and it's unlisted. And there's one person in particular talking about, is Antifa a terrorist organization? And then we got into kids in cages and other things, and he was just very angry. Like he explicitly flipped over the timer like 5 times. Like he wanted to continue the conversation and yell at me, or so that was probably the worst experience.
Okay, so the guy just kept extending the time, and you let him. Because
I kept asking questions and trying to learn from him, but I think he was trying to break me down. But I was just asking questions and trying to understand the position, and he would ask me about my position and tried to make sure am I an enemy? Am I someone who does not believe what he believes? And even my like tepid, I'm not sure type answers, I would need more clarification. It depends. He was not happy about those responses, and he just kept, having, yelling at me.
I observe that you have a distinct voice. I could tell your voice anytime I hear it, and you are actually my example of not just calm like Reid Nicewonder. So I see this as a real benefit in SE. Do people ever give you a negative reaction to your voice? Maybe it's so far that they don't think you're honest, or they think you're putting them on.
No one's ever said that. I don't think I've seen any comments about that. It's mainly positive about my voice, I guess. So that's nice to see. Yeah,
you have an amazing tone, and I try to emulate without duplicating or pretending to be like, but just stay calm and polite. Really good. Cool. What's the best way to go about exploring moral or political claims as opposed to claims about reality?
Yeah, the last chapter of How to Have Impossible Conversations is about that. And I rarely get into those types of claims or get to that point in certain conversations. There's the template. I forgot what exactly it was. It's basically the same as in the other claim. You get into their moral epistemology, like whatever reasoning they have for whatever moral claim. And ideally, you can put it in the category of the moral foundations. Is it a appeal to harm or liberty or fairness or loyalty, authority, or what else? Loyalty. There's 3 other groupish moral foundations. If you know which category of moral foundation, that's probably good to know. And then you can ask questions in line with that moral foundation. You don't want to ask, does it matter to you if this harms whatever group, if they only care about liberty or fairness?
Yeah.
Or, or does it matter about authority? How do we test the authority of someone? How do we know when someone's not an authority? What makes a good authority? Or how do we know when to be loyal? Like, should we be disloyal at any point? How do we know about that? Loyalty, authority, and there's one more. But think about in terms of those 6 foundations and stick to whatever they have as their foundations most most, and then you can
So you got to
explore.
ask. You got to understand their values enough to ask questions in line with their value, because you won't move them if you give them comparisons that they don't care about.
Yeah, so you want to, and what are they trying to achieve in the world? What's their goal? And I assume they want to achieve it in line with their values. And how could their goal be best achieved? Does it, if achieving this goal can be achieved through their values, and someone else is trying to, like, if there's a progressive policy that's being trying to be achieved, could that be achieved using a conservative moral foundation? Could you justify that policy using conservative principles? Like, I see articles of doing that sometimes. Maybe go at it that way. Yeah, there's different ways.
Okay, next question. When would you abort an Lincus?
If someone gets excessively angry, where they're like maybe getting to the point of physical violence, but before that, I have this strange ability to just listen to anybody about whatever for as long as they want to talk, and it doesn't faze me, so it's weird. And it's like, I see listening and repeating back and learning as a way to just disarm someone. So it's like, the more I listen, the less they'll be angry, and the more I try to understand where they're coming from and hear them out. It's just a way to diffuse the tension. So it's like, if that just happens, then that's fine with me. And then that, maybe if I'm someone that's outside their moral community or moral tribe, then they have an example of someone who's not evil and can listen to them and understands where they're coming from.
Indeed. Thank you. The next question will be, how do you approach people who don't take hypotheticals seriously?
That happens a lot. How do you approach that? I guess you could switch to outsider tests.
Okay.
Is outsider tests hypothetical questions? I guess that is also hypothetical questions.
Well, it wouldn't have to be hypothetical, because you probably could honestly come up with an example of someone you've spoken to that at least approximately holds the position you're saying. So it's a real thing. There is a real person who really does hold that.
Yeah, like, have you heard about people who live in India and understand and believe in Vishnu? But the next question would be, if that person or if someone like that came up to the table, or if you, like, that's a hypothetical. If they came up and said something, or how can we say that without being in a hypothetical situation? Maybe I don't know.
I have spoken to a Hindu person who believes, based on the validity of their scripture, that their moral code is absolutely correct. And that sounds like what you've said to me. How can I tell that you're right and they're wrong?
Rather than appealing to the future action, say, this happened in the past to me.
Yes.
And I've heard this, and I can't really, I'm hearing this from you, and I've heard this from this person.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of stuck between you. How could someone figure out which is more accurate in their beliefs? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Have you made any lasting friendships that started as SE conversations?
Like the interlocutor? No.
No. Okay.
No. Mm-hmm.
Have you made lasting friendships that started because of your hobby of SE?
Many. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah, that's also my experience. Although I have definitely had interlocutors that have turned into lasting friendships. That has happened. I think that's because a lot of my practice is on Discord. And Discord, it's very easy for somebody who has a session with me to DM me after the fact and start up a relationship. So that's actually worked out. Are you going to do any SE online due to COVID? Or maybe your area is starting to open up and you might be able to go back to public? What's your plans regarding this thing?
Yeah, I think I will try to do it more online if I can't get the VR thing working. I'm not even in Los Angeles right now. I'm in Florida. So, like, all my recording equipment is still in Los Angeles, but I have this microphone here and I can do it online. So I might try what you're doing, like on Discord or some other way.
Mm-hmm.
I do need to. I would ideally like a way to, get people signed up to talk at a specific time. I guess I just need to follow your example and set up a Google form and let people sign up.
I speak for all of the people on the collab server in this, and if somebody objects, let me know. That we totally invite you to come use our setup so that you don't have to invest in anything, and we will serve that need. We would like to be that for you.
Sweet, thanks.
We have plenty of room. Okay. Have you ever feared that someone was going to talk to you into some belief that you don't want? Or maybe instead it's important to go into... Yeah, that was a restating of the question. I think I'm just going to go with the first one.
Have I ever feared someone was going to talk to you into some belief that you don't want? No.
Okay.
I'm not like a robot. Some people say I'm a robot, but I'm not that much of a robot. Like, just because I hear an idea doesn't mean I'm going to be, automatically converted to it just by hearing it. That's not how humans work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. And next question. Have you had students interested in SE that just could not get it, even after repeated attempts? I'm discounting Aaron Raw. He only tried one day. I think it would have to be more than one try.
I don't really have any students, unless you count yourself. Then no. Have I seen anybody
that also visited? I'm not the only one. But anyway, yes.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider them like my students. There's like other SE interested people.
Okay.
Could not get it. I haven't even been in like a teaching situation or a situation where someone has attempted it a lot and just not got it after a while. So no.
Okay. Yeah. I also, strangely enough, have not. It seems like everybody who actually tries it more than twice. Now, maybe they can't get it and they do it twice and they just never try again with me, and then I wouldn't know. But if they've tried it more than twice, they just continue to make progress every time.
Yeah. Has the chessboard people been getting it? Has been people like been copying and doing it more?
Yeah, it's interesting. The on the chessboard, it's starting to get where I'm not having any limitation getting claims, and I'm only doing as much examination as I want. I'm able to hand it off to other volunteers a lot. Last week, on the main Street Epistemology Discord, we had a 3-hour practice SE session where neither I or Rom got to do any investigations.
Wow.
That was stellar. That was so good. The group came in and just one right after the other, and they were ready with the next one. Blink, and the most we had to do was be around to say, "I'm stuck. Oh, how about you can ask such and such."
That's a great format. Having a bunch of people setting it at like 10 minutes. What is it? 10 minutes?
Yeah, they go for a 10-minute Lincus, and then they ask the interrogator to, I keep using the word interrogator, they use examiner, to summarize back. They have a minute or two to summarize back the understanding of the person, and they have that kind of conversation. And then they open it to the room to comment on primarily the Lincus, and then some people want to also discuss things about the claim. And so it's bounced back and forth. It's a bit like what I'm doing on my channel, although I have one Lincus and then one commentary back usually. Sometimes we've gone back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Have you, as the questioner, ever changed your confidence? I think this one's been asked before.
I think we
Ever
did
changed
that,
your
yeah.
confidence or opinion on the results of a conversation with an
Yeah,
interlocutor? That's a
slightly.
different wording of the same one. May I have another question? When would people get interested in SE and try to learn the method with the goal of doing? Oh, sorry. When people get interested in SE and try to learn the method of the goal doing an SE in public and they fail, why do they fail the most often? Why do people have the intention and then not get there?
I guess there's many ways to fail, and what is the biggest reason to fail? It's like getting there, getting the equipment to set up, like first getting the funding to get the equipment, and then getting the equipment, and then getting to a place to do the talks, and then getting someone to talk, and then making sure you're recording everything right, and then editing, and then publishing. So it's like pre-production, production, and post-production.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it comes down to probably pre-production. I would assume people don't even get to the point of getting to go out in public. Either they don't have the time, or they don't have the understanding of the equipment, or they don't have the funding to get the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably most of the failures there. If they do get to production, then it's probably just time, and then making it a habit. Maybe they're just interested for a week or a month, and then they just lose interest. Maybe they have a bad conversation, or they feel embarrassed, or they just feel weird out in public. So maybe those are some reasons. No idea how much each one is impactful, but those are some guesses, hypotheses.
On this topic, do you have anything with your Street Epistemology International hat on that organization would like to say on the topic?
Yes, SEI has some funds now. We have some money coming in, and we have quite a bit already in the bank. So if you're interested in going out and doing public SE or whatever type of SE project you want to do, feel free to, and you need funding support for it, feel free to put in a funding request through our website. We can help you out.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, SEA hat off.
Okay, good. I think it's okay for me to say that SE gave me a grant toward my income and essentially paid for most of this microphone. So thank you very much.
Sure. You've been putting our funds to good use, so this is great.
Thank you.
That's what we want to see.
Do you keep a file of everyone you've ever SE'd in the off chance that they reach out to you so that you can track their progress?
I don't keep a file. I do create a new conversation note in the Notes app on my iPad, and I just looked at it, and it's now above. It's 1,001 notes. But I'm sure there's more, conversations I didn't make a note about. So, but I have over 1,000 notes,
awesome,
for each conversation. So that's the most I do in terms of keeping track of whoever I talk to. It's just the first name of the person.
Yeah. And I bet in some cases there's some terabyte drives in a closet somewhere that also holds some record of the conversation. Indeed.
Yeah, I keep all my footage. I don't delete anything as well.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Is there anyone famous enough that we would probably both know of them that you would refuse to interrogate? Aporia, 3 seconds. Ding. Okay.
Yeah. Probably. I'm sure somebody. Why would I refuse to interrogate them? I don't know.
I have a list for myself of those. It's a category for me. It would probably start with the top at Donald Trump.
You wouldn't want to interrogate him?
Nope. And because he fits in the category, that would probably also include maybe even Ken Ham or basically powerful people whom, if I ended up pushing them into a corner and making them look bad, could cause me legal or societal big trouble. There would be, they'd have power to push back hard.
Oh, you'd be afraid of the consequences if you like made them look stupid.
Right. Like an exception I would make in that category would be, say, Elon, only because I trust that my conversation with him wouldn't generate that kind of power. But I'm not sure I could do the same with, say, Jeff Bezos. And I'm just picking names out of the hat here. So really big, powerful people intimidate me, and I bow to that intimidation.
Okay, that makes sense.
What evidence would you need to be convinced of the existence of a God?
Miracles.
Oh, my prediction team rocks. Oh, you guys are so fast. I love that.
Some type of consistently reproducible miracle.
Okay.
Like, and that we can rule out aliens as best as we can. Like, limbs going back.
Or modify the definition of God to include super powerful aliens, maybe. But yeah, I'm with you. Okay,
so if we could, like, you know, not have to have any hospitals anymore because every time we prayed for whatever illness or whatever in a specific God in a specific way, and it didn't work in any other God we prayed to, that would do it.
Mm-hmm. So the follow-up is, what would you accept as a miracle? You might have just said so. I think you just gave the answer to that.
Yeah, like stuff we see now as against the laws of physics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. When is the Ferrari test a good idea? And when is it a bad idea?
The Ferrari test is when you ask someone, if I said I'm going to make a claim, I have a Ferrari, what's your confidence that is true? Mm-hmm. And then you ask, what could you learn to increase your confidence or decrease your confidence? I think that's what it is. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the Ferrari test, when I see Anthony do it, is if I showed you a key fob. How about if I took you to the parking lot and my key fit? How about if I showed you registration? And then there's a meta direction that he goes where he says, and how about if I told you I owned a space shuttle or a warp-capable starship?
Yeah. It's like you want to see that they can change their confidence with evidence, and how much their confidence changes depending on the extraordinariness of the evidence. Mm-hmm. Like having a Ferrari is like a mildly extraordinary claim. Mm-hmm. It's like a rare thing for people to have.
Yeah.
So it's mildly extraordinary. So do you just go off my word, or, do you need high quality evidence like a title in the name that's like notarized or something? And then you try to apply the flexibility of evidence to a different claim. Yeah. So if someone is rigid, I guess, in not coming up with hypothetical evidence for a claim, that could change their mind. If like, no, I'm 100%, I can't change my mind, there's nothing that could change my mind, then just switch to the Ferrari and go through that exercise, show how they can easily come up with evidence that could change their mind, and then possibly switch back to the original claim. Okay, like the Ferrari, you could see evidence that could change your mind. And now what evidence could you see to change your mind about this claim again? Maybe that would be a good way.
I think I'm hearing when their standards of evidence don't seem to include whether the claim is extraordinary, that's a good time to bust it out.
Yeah, usually we talk about extraordinary claims like supernatural stuff or gods, and usually people are rigid about those types of claims. So if we switch to this less extraordinary but still kind of rare claim, it's easy to help them be more flexible in their confidence. So that and then now that we see them being flexible, in order to be consistent, they should also be flexible for other claims. What's special about this claim that makes you inflexible? Can't you imagine stuff? Like, we just easily imagine stuff for this claim. What's the difference?
Right. Good. Okay, next question. And
I think we've almost gone through all the questions.
Almost, yeah. Well, actually, a lot of these have been ad hoc. People have been suggesting, so maybe a third of these have been not off the original list. Have you ever been emotionally moved? I think we asked this question.
Did that.
Yeah, we did this one. Yep, this one's done.
No.
And the answer was, in your case, no. In my case, yes. I was asked to make a claim so somebody could practice with me. And it was the first time I had tried the claim that I think copyright is broken, that copyright is way out of control. And this is the Nina Paley argument, if you've seen Nina Paley's stuff. If not, somebody please throw a link to Paley. Oh, my gosh. And as it turned out, after I did it, I had not realized how much I cared about it, especially when we got into music. How much I resent the hell out of if I'm improvising, that I could not. I had to be very, very careful never to have recognizable music come out in my improv, and that's really annoying. And when that happened, I actually was like, God, wow! As the interlocutor, I didn't have to be calm. I could preach for it.
Yeah.
I got to the point where, and they said, "Okay, now I'd like to switch the tables." And I say, "I need 20 minutes. I'm too amped. I'm too amped." But it wasn't as an interrogator. That's never happened where I've been as an interrogator moved that hard.
I need to offer myself as someone to be questioned more often. I need to do that more.
Yeah. Well, if you like, you can be a guest on my show and bring any claim you like. I'll be happy to interrogate.
Okay.
Yeah. Did anyone get inspired during your conversation and get interested and has started practicing SE? Have you gotten anybody who you interviewed who got in enough to the method that they started trying it?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. During, like, someone I was talking to in person, and they wanted to then go and do SC on their own. Maybe at the time, like, someone wanted to, like, then do it with their friends or something. Maybe that's happened. I can't remember. Some people get excited, but not to that point.
I think I've had it 10 times at least. But cool. I'm specifically going out there doing SE theory and practice teachings. So I would expect that the people that are interested are going to come in, give a claim to me, decide they're interested, and then start practicing up. Some of them are here in the room.
Yeah, unique context. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I have a very teaching directed context, so it's inevitable. Imagine I have a stack of new people to SE that I want to help learn. I want to help teach them, and I only have time to address a small fraction of them. Who do I pick and why?
So I saw your video with Anthony yesterday. I liked his answers for this, but what did he say exactly, or what did you say? It's like personality types, someone being open, that's more, I guess, open.
He gave three or four selection criteria that basically, are they suited to do the hard things? Can they already reach being neutral? Can they already reach hypotheticals?
Yeah, if we go back to that mimetic tribe list, could they pass the ideological Turing test for every tribe or a lot of tribes? Like, could they represent the values and the positions of multiple tribes? And that would be the top criteria for me, if they already know where people are coming from and their values.
Okay. I'm going to throw a question they haven't seen. So the question comes, ideological Turing test. Maybe there's a link about that. Is that something that we have an external reference
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, it's basically, the Mills dictum of like he who knows only his side of the case knows little of that. It's like, can you represent the opposite side of whatever issue or some type of position? It's basically being able to summarize or know the opposite side.
Okay. So
Yeah.
in this, you gave me an article many months back in which I grabbed an idea called the mimetic mediator. This was
That's from the
something
mimetic
you didn't
tribes piece, yeah.
Yeah, mimetic tribes list. And that really got me thinking. And I do have the plan to go there. I actually think the mimetic mediator idea. First of all, would you explain that idea? Can you tell us what a mimetic mediator would be ideally?
Yeah, so like some tribes can talk to each other fairly easily. They have similar values and similar ways of thinking and conceptualizing about the world, but some tribes are so different and have such vastly opposing values that if they tried to talk to each other, they would just immediately break down and probably get angry and yell at each other. So if someone could be in between them and translate their values and get them to slow down and like just some way to translate what they're saying into something that the other person can, maybe like they're using words or concepts differently than some other people, just being able to translate what they're saying into a way the other side can understand and see where they're coming from. That's what I think a mimetic mediator is. It's like that. It's not even a real thing at this point. It's still like, what is the, like, we need something to mediate between vastly different tribes in some way, and we don't even know what that is at this point. So feel free to experiment.
Indeed, I actually intended to do so. How would I best practice that? Well, that's something we're going to figure out. I knew that I wanted to get this channel on SE going clearly, and it's a very teaching-y channel, so I want to not actually bring a lot of controversy myself. If my interlocutors do, that's fine, but that doesn't color the channel and make people tune out. Oh, he brought on a Nazi. Hopefully people aren't going to tune me out because I platform a Nazi. I want to understand what they're saying and let them say their thing. And I'm just using Nazi for the stand-in for everybody who's on the way opposite side of wherever you're standing.
We're using Skype right now, and I don't think Skype has that breakout room feature that Zoom does. And I want to test this breakout room feature in Zoom using this mimetic mediator idea, where they don't even see each other and they don't even know who they're talking to. And I just pop back and forth between the rooms, and it's a lot. I have a live stream going, and the audience knows who I'm talking to, both of them.
Yes,
but the people
can the audience see both the people?
The audience can see all three, but only they can see me. And I pop back and forth. I talk with them, like, this person says this for this reason, because they want to get to this goal using this method. So I get all that, and then I go over to the other side, and I put that to them, and I get their reaction or something, and their feedback, and then I go back to the other side, and I tell them their feedback. And maybe in the meantime, they're trying to work on some other question, or so they're not just waiting, but something like that. I'd love to see people do that format. Experiment with that.
That's an even better format than I had been thinking about. I want to see that. I want to help. Okay.
I want to see that too.
Yeah, definitely. When I was in pre-production for this channel, mimetic mediator was one of the categories, and I decided to put it off for a few months until I get all the rest of it going. And if I do mimetic mediator, it'll be on a different channel, because I don't want to limit my audience, because of that's going to be it's going to be controversial topics every show.
It has to be. Like, what's the point of doing a mimetic mediation if it's not something that's impossible to talk about? So,
exactly. So yeah, that'll be a separate show. And if you do it first, I want to help. Okay. Did did I answer the question as to how we would do this? I think I like his better. I think I like his format better than mine. It's faster. It's more live. Ooh, such good. And I also hear Lurker would love to also take part in that. That's getting good feedback from people. Thank you for that. What actions must the interrogator perform to qualify a conversation as SE? What are the minimum things you have to do to get up to it's your version of SE?
Yeah, I had this written down just to make sure. Okay, here's my list. It's probably not my full list, but here's some things. Get confirmation from the interlocutor. You fully understand their claim with clear definitions. Getting confirmation from them, like them saying, "Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying." I guess that's a minimum criteria. And then also, just in general, using collaborative language. It's not a debate. You're using collaborative language. Shooting the messenger. You're not saying any facts or anything. Unprovoked, not asked for. And in general, you're listening more than you're speaking. You should not be saying more than your interlocutor. If you had to pie chart that out, ideally it should be like 20, 80, 20, maybe at most.
Okay.
And beginning and ending the conversation with a friendly rapport. I guess that would be the core minimum criteria.
That's a great list. I'm going to read this back and make a formal list so that I can present that.
Okay.
We're at an hour and 45. If you still feel up for more stuff, would you like to vocal with the crowd directly? Maybe we can unmute.
Sure.
Okay. And so unmute. I say unmute. Good. Now everybody in the room should be able to unmute themselves and just ask your questions. Be polite.
Okay. There's another question on the screen. We want to answer that in the meantime.
Sure.
What would you like to see new people do with or bring to Street Epistemology? Just more experimentation. Like the goal is getting people to reflect and reconsider their beliefs. And we have various methods to do that we've tried that seem to be working. But feel free to try new things and see what else works. Just more experimentation.
Are there any people up for giving your voice in? I will just continue to ask questions if nobody actually manages to speak up. What, if it happens, usually makes you most excited to do SE?
Most excited to do SE, like when I'm in doing SE at the time, that makes me excited that I'm doing it. It's similar to like the other question of like what counts as like a good SE conversation.
No, I think motivation. I think it's what is in your motivation when you do SE. Why are you in the short term most excited to do SE? What motivates you in that moment?
Basically, when people say, I've never thought about it before like that, or like seeing an obvious example of where someone has believed something strongly for a long time that they've never thought about, and it's really the first time they thought about it deeply, and they're just appreciative of having gone through that process. Like that's what's great. That's the best. Love that.
That's the best. Excellent. Flash, who's allowed to speak his own question, probably wants me to read, have you ever used a hypothetical Christian with a real Hindu?
I think I did. Did I? I had that one conversation with the Hindu at what college should we go to? What's that college we go to?
UCLA.
UCLA. Yeah, I talked to the Hindu there. I think I talked with a few Hindus there. Maybe there's one I haven't uploaded. And I think I did use a hypothetical Christian or someone. I think I did try that once. So yeah, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions from the audience? Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you'd like my audience to know about?
Don't know. Maybe it would be a good that you could put the link to your whatever Google form in the description of your videos.
Yes.
That would be a good thing to just have your as a default in your videos, so people, if they come across your videos, they can easily get to that form.
Okay.
That would be
That's
a good
the form
thing
for people to sign up, and after they see my calendar, to suggest a date that they see is open. Yeah. I will.
Yeah.
I will add that.
Yeah, and if you're like recently, that link wasn't. It just went to your YouTube channel. It didn't go to your calendar, but I think it's probably fixed now. So that's something. And what else do they need to know? I don't really know.
Okay. Out of questions. Kimberly says, we've finished our list. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate this, sticking it out the whole time and doing all these things. Yeah, I want to say thank you. You have actually been the inspiration that made my channel happen. And I have been really, really, really pleased with what I've learned from and through you. I look forward to the mimetic mediator. I want to see your version before I even start mine. It would be several months before I could start mine. I need to get this channel completely proper on its feet and focused before I start doing anything that could distract me. So I really look forward to that. I see a few people are typing just in case there's anything left, and if not, yes, special thanks to the technical team. We have a wonderful and incredible team, and I couldn't possibly do this without them. Here are 5 of my favorite channels. I actually have something like 11 of them in the preferred channels or the promoted channels on my YouTube channel. But here are the top 5. Of course, Cordial Curiosity is one of them. If you are really, really interested in this method about street epistemology, there are lots of good resources on streetepistemology.com, provided by Street Epistemology International. Well, I should say, provided by the community in general. And Street Epistemology International is a great place. Streetepistemology.com is a great place for those resources to be put together. If you would like to be a guest on my show anytime in the future, I look forward to hearing from you. There will be a link in the doobly-doo. Thank you.